Hello, everyone. Good morning from USA. Today, we are honored to have Dr. Duffy with us. Dr. Duffy is an internal medicine program director at Parkview, residency program. And the good thing about his program, which I really find very attractive for IMGs, is that his program also offers formal observerships. That is something that personally, when I was applying for residency back in 2015-16, I suffered a lot, and it is so difficult to find places, especially the residency programs that offer observerships because of course, I mean, there are legit issues like the confidentiality issues, the liability insurance, and all that. So I'm honored. I reached out to him when he posted about observership, and he replied me right away. So I'm really grateful to you, Dr. Duffy. Uh, Without further ado, I hand over the podium to you.
Great. Well, thanks, Dr. Khan. It's fun to be here, and it's kind of fun to kind of be building this community and kind of having kind of bumped into you kind of in social media, LinkedIn, and all of that, and then meeting a number of potential candidates there as well. It's really
Mhm.
been kind of a robust way to kind of meet people, and so that's what I know. There are so many good candidates out there that just the application season in and of itself, I know there are good people that we're just missing. And that's why I've really
Absolutely.
embraced the idea of kind of the social media and trying to meet people there as well.
Absolutely. So I would begin by asking, so how were you able to like in a way convince your GME department or to allow like a formal observership for IMGs? Because what I mean, I personally have been trying. What issues I run into is that they say they're not students anymore, so the liability insurance and all that. So how were you able to navigate all of that?
I think we have a good connection with Rocky Vista University, which is an osteopathic med school up in Denver, and they send a lot of med students to us. So this whole
Okay.
idea of having trainees in the program and then considering their kind of relationship with us as almost a way to have them get a feel for the program and us get a feel for them, almost as if they were auditioning. So it was an
Yeah.
easy step to kind of create this concept of an observership that's coming to learn, first of all,
Mhm.
to check us out, second of all, and
Mhm.
for us to get a chance to know them, third of all. And we've
Okay.
really found that people we know that come into this residency program really do well. I mean, we
Mhm.
take all comers, and lots of our people who match don't necessarily have not necessarily been here as an auditioner, as an
Mhm.
observer, as a student, but we found that that connection really does help us. And so when I mentioned about formalizing the observerships, they the GME department was very open to that.
Okay. Well, that's awesome because again, as I mentioned, that I can count on my fingers. There are only a handful of rotations, places, especially the residency programs that allow formal observerships. And the issue is that what happens is that IMGs, what they face difficulty with is, of course, they would need a visa, of course, to be in US. So when they apply for rotation, so while doing the electives during med school, that is a little bit easier. They are in the med school, and elective usually the universities offer formally. A lot of time they charge in excess of $2,000-3,000, which for in most of the IMG, especially like in India and Pakistan, the concept is that it's a bad concept, I must say, but students don't work. So they are entirely relying on their parents or their loved ones for the support. So that's one thing. The other thing is once they graduate, they usually take steps exams, and but with the cancellation of CS, that was like the main source of getting visas. So now sometimes it's a hit and miss, especially for some IMGs from some countries. They apply for a visa for observership. Sometimes they get it, sometimes they don't. So
Right.
that has been an issue. So I feel that your just to know that there's a place, of course, there would be a list, but at least you have a chance where you can rotate. That's, I think, one of the best news for IMG community I have heard in a few months.
Hmm. Yeah, and so as far as the onboarding process, our GME department has a whole checklist of things we
Mhm.
work through to get somebody onboarded, and of course, all of those issues you mentioned are things we need to work through.
Mhm.
We don't necessarily officially sponsor those things,
Absolutely, yeah.
but we definitely are open to working flexibly with
Mhm.
people inside of that context to
Mhm.
see to get them here. So.
Okay. Now I would wear like a hat of an applicant or aspirant, and I would ask over the several months where I've been doing these podcasts, many applicants have directly reached out to me, or over the forums I've noticed they have questions in their mind, especially internal medicine. I must say, Dr. Duffy, that internal medicine is, for some reason, it's like a default choice for 80% of IMGs.
Yeah,
And if you consider Pakistan and India, it's 90%.
yeah, yeah.
And most of the time, because I mean, they they like primary care for sure, and then they also like cardiology, GI, endocrinology, rheumatology, infectious disease. So they really like those. Nephrology is also one of them they really like.
Right.
So internal medicine is like huge, and of course there are a lot of spots. So my first question to you, when you are reviewing application now, do you have, and again, you can answer whatever you feel comfortable with. Do you have any cutoffs for score, years of graduation, USC, or anything?
So yeah, if you're talking about kind of the initial approach to,
Mhm.
for example, last year, I don't remember the exact number, but it was roughly around 3,500
Oh,
applications.
wow.
And that's all comers. I mean, that's
Wow.
USMLE Allopass, that's
Yeah.
USDO Allopass, that's IMGs. Our first steps are to look at kind of year of graduation, basic test scores, and actually what I like is some element of clinical experience. So the
Okay.
fact that somebody didn't graduate that exact previous year to me is not a hindrance at all. But
Okay.
none of these factors are absolute. I mean, we don't
Okay.
say that you have to have this test score. We don't put a, I mean, we do run the filters to see
Mhm.
what the numbers look like,
Mhm.
but once we get into the interview process, it's much more holistic.
Okay, I understand. And if I may ask, what would be like a filter for a CK score? Because now we are mostly considering that.
Um, yeah, I remember last year, what was the number? I think it was right around 225 or something like that, if I'm remembering right.
That is like very, very reasonable.
Yeah, and so I just I mean we emphasize the big test we emphasize are the in training once you're in the program is the in
Mhm.
training exam as
Mhm.
preparation for the boards. I mean we are all about in training scores and we're all about board scores, but as far
Mhm.
as applicants, I mean it's a concept of the book knowledge, their year of graduation, how
Mhm.
much clinical experience do they have if they
Mhm.
didn't graduate in that exact year,
Mhm.
and I like the idea of bringing people in who have had a year or two of kind of clinical experience,
Okay.
kind of thing. Uh,
Okay.
so.
Now, IMGs that, let's say, are out of their med schools for more than 3 years, and let's say that in their home country they were clinically active, whether enrolled in like a formal internal medicine training or doing similar stuff, or even in UK doing Royal College certifications, would that be something that you would consider?
Yes, yeah, I think so. In fact, it's interesting. I'm really excited. One of our new interns coming in now has been in that situation and actually completed a nephrology training. So here I have as an intern somebody who's coming in, with medical school training. They've got internal medicine training, and they've got the nephrology background.
Wow.
Now, I don't do that. It's not like that's the pattern and that's
Mhm.
everybody. But when
Mhm.
I look to see balancing out an incoming class with what I call just freshly green interns coming right out of school,
Yeah.
balancing that with some people who can bring some leadership to the program on
Mhm.
day one, I like that balance. And it's not
Okay.
necessarily even 50-50. It may be two or three like that,
Mhm.
and then six or seven people that are totally green kind of thing.
Okay, I understand.
Yeah.
Now, a lot of people ask us about the red flags, and I usually don't like to use that word, but per se, when some people use the red flags for IMD, especially someone, let's say, who has an attempt, let's say in step one, CK, or graduation year is even 5+ years out. Uh, so in your opinion, and in when you are looking for application, if someone has a red flag like that, let's say an attempt, but then that person passed it and even taken step three just to boost chances.
Yeah.
Would the application pass through those filters?
Sure. Yes, it would. And because I mean, we don't. There's no filter we put on there that if somebody hadn't passed a step on the
Okay.
initial attempt, that filters them out. Not at all.
Okay.
I would say the biggest issue that filters people out is once we hit the interview and the English language skills. Uh,
Okay.
that is
Understandable.
because it's I mean not just the grammar, but to me it's a red flag as the ability to kind of in get into the culture and be able to integrate seamlessly into it's hard enough coming over to a brand new culture.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And if the language issue is a struggle, it just makes it hard. And it's not that we're trying to
Absolutely.
be discriminatory at
Mhm.
all. It's just the issue of it's just a fact.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Makes a lot of sense. Uh, some PDs I have had conversations with feel for IMGs who have graduated at least more than 2 years ago. If they have step three already passed, that gives them some edge. What's your opinion?
Yeah, I like to see that. That gets back
Okay.
to that leadership coming in,
Hmm.
somebody who's past step three. In fact, I will look at it. I look at year of graduation,
Hmm.
and if it's been 3, 4 years ago and there is no step three, the first question on my mind is what have they been up to?
Yes, absolutely.
Because and that's so important to get that, I get it. If you didn't match right
Hmm.
away, that we don't count that against
Hmm.
anybody. But then, well, what have you been doing to kind of
Absolutely.
continue so that
Hmm.
we don't have a sense that we're bringing somebody in who's been kind of out of the medical field for the
Hmm.
last 4 years, kind of thing.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
A lot of people lately have been having this issue that they are fresh out of med school, like maybe 1 year ago. They tried for US visa to get US experience, clinical experience. They did not get it. They have like excellent scores, or what I would say is above like in 250, 260s even.
Yeah.
Now they have letters, well written, waived LORs from physicians in their home countries, and some of them potentially are US trained with zero US clinical experience and let's say 0 or 1 year of graduation, good letters written from local physicians. What do you think about those folks?
I think it's good. And so but the question on my mind will be how will they be able to integrate into the culture
Hmm.
here without having had the U.S. clinical experience, even if they're solidly scientific and
Hmm.
solidly medical, it's
Hmm.
just a lot to ask somebody to come in and navigate an EMR and navigate,
Hmm.
kind of local patients in a different kind of cultural milieu. And
Absolutely.
that lack of the U.S. clinical experience, it's not about their knowledge base. It's
Sure.
about the inculturation process.
Okay.
Yeah.
What's your opinion about there are some places in the US that offer tele rotations? How
I'm sorry,
would you
for
see
what?
tele rotations like virtual rotations, observerships? How would you see them?
Yeah, very good. In fact, this is another thing I've done on LinkedIn. I don't know if you've noticed yet, and I'll be putting a blast out here probably later today. I do this educational thing called Gather Ed, and it's tele. But
Wow.
I've met
Okay.
a number of IMGs who have participated with me in that,
Okay.
and a couple that are actually joining the program. And
Wow.
I
Okay.
won't say that that was the reason, but
Okay.
it sure was nice to be able to meet these people in a tele format. We work through problem, it's things like diabetes and
Okay.
irritable bowel and opioids. We work through that. I start to meet these people, and before you know it, they're doing an observership here.
Wow.
And
Wow. No,
so
that's awesome. That's whenever you share, I would definitely share it because these are the things that I feel that this is like a true academic sense where leaders like you, if you are into this, I think that is the one of the most authentic form of teaching that IMGs can get instead of paying thousands of dollars.
yeah, it's free. The Gather Ed is free,
Exactly.
and in fact, I've put on a couple of podcasts just myself, or not podcasts, just Zoom meetings, where I'll blast out on LinkedIn about, hey, let's talk about right heart and POCUS, and I'll put that out there. And
Wow.
hey, come on and join, and we'll just have
Okay.
fun, just doing
Wonderful.
it. No charge
Wonderful.
at all for any of that.
Okay.
It's all education.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's awesome. That's awesome. Okay. Now what would be significance of research? And I know when we talk about research, there are different at different levels. Some is doing a postdoc, some has done PhD, or some is some has some virtual research experience with a few peer review articles. What's your take on that?
Yeah, my take is that it's good. I'm trying to build a model here, and we've done it on one meta-analysis so far, where we can build an international research kind of team that
Wow.
works remotely together. And we're working on. I'm actually presenting that paper from that team in Bangkok next week.
Oh,
And so it was a
wow.
meta-analysis we did on SGLT2 inhibitors. One of my residents headed the team, but we pulled in people that were from all over the place that were
Awesome.
maybe, I'm assuming people who sign up to do this are interested in the program. I'm assuming that's why they're doing it.
Mhm.
But yeah, and we were able to work that through. I'd love to build that model. Now, I can't guarantee that everybody who participates gets an interview or gets a
Of
spot, but
course.
it's just another one of these ways to get to know people outside of just scores and letters. Those are good,
Absolutely.
they're important, but they're kind of plastic. And I like to get
Yeah,
to know the people I'm dealing with.
absolutely. Absolutely.
So
What?
I would add to that.
Mhm.
The research, what I see as most important about that is yeah, great if you get a good publication, but it's all about finishing the project.
Mhm.
If you start it and then you fall off,
Mhm.
that says to me, that says a lot about somebody's ability to persist through a 36-month program.
Oh, yeah.
So if people are interested in, for example, signing up with one of our remote and meta-analyses
Mhm.
and get going on that, the worst thing they could do is sign up, get started, and then drop out of the group, because then I'm like, well, what happened? There was no follow through. They weren't able
Mhm.
to complete the task.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, yeah.
So these days, a lot of people have been paying a lot of emphasis on personal statement. What would be your take as a tool, let's say, to select someone for the interview?
Right.
How much importance personal statement has?
I would say it's of kind of medium level importance, because I will say they're all very similar, in the sense that even when they share their unique experience in the
Mhm.
first paragraph or two,
Mhm.
it all boils down. So when I look at the personal statement, and I'll just be honest with you, I go straight to the last paragraph and I ask myself, is this person focused on what they want to do?
Okay.
The answer is yes. Then I'll go back to the top and I
Mhm.
will read the whole thing. If
I
I
see.
can't tell what the person wants to do, I mean, they're kind of like, cardiology, GI, NEF, primary
Mhm.
care. And I get it. We're not asking people to decide ahead of time what they
Mhm.
need to do. But it is very nice to see that somebody's, first of all, interested in, if they're coming into an internal
Mhm.
medicine program, that's what they're interested in, that
Mhm.
they're not looking past it. So that
Mhm.
they're not all about cardiology in the personal statement,
Yeah.
and like internal medicine is just a barrier that they've got to get
Mhm.
through.
Mhm.
That being said, it's nice to see that strong sense of where they're going.
Mhm.
And then I go back to the top and I look for, okay, what's their call? What is their experience?
Mhm.
What got them interested? Where's their passion? Where's their
Mhm.
heart? And then I go from there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very good. Uh, Signaling. How important, in your opinion, is
Wow.
signaling?
So this year, that's interesting. I'll be honest. I this year I felt it was helpful in the
Mhm.
sense that it gave me a clue.
Mhm.
But the bottom line is, people say what they say. And my main thing is just be honest.
Mhm.
As a program director, obviously I can't tell people where we ranked them and all of
Yeah,
that.
of
They
course.
can tell me whatever they want. I can
Mhm.
only tell them that we feel they are or aren't a strong candidate.
Yeah.
But what I sense is that, and I hate to say it this way, but if your first move to get into medicine is a dishonest email that says, I love you, you're my greatest program ever, and they're sending that to 50 programs, I wouldn't know that. But my sense is that that's not a good way to start. So this gets
Yeah.
back to the issue of signaling. I kind of don't really. Next year I'm not going to bother with who signals me and who doesn't.
Okay.
I'm gonna just basically go with my sense, from their
Okay.
application, from the interview.
Okay.
We did all in person last year on interviews, and I did a few hybrids and a couple of just tellies, because of this whole issue of finding candidates, that didn't necessarily make it through the initial process.
Mhm.
And so next year we're not committed to in-person telly or combination yet. We're still thinking about it.
Okay.
What we like about in person is that we get a better sense for somebody's sincerity,
Absolutely.
and whether they signal us or not, or whether that signal was sincere. And I get it, they can signal multiple. So signaling one, is not meaning that they're signaling us as
Yeah.
number one.
Yeah.
But what I've learned is that some of those emails that I receive that are all basically very flowery, aren't always, how should I say it, aren't always necessarily very sincere.
Okay.
And so I
Understand.
would just challenge the applicants. If you're going to tell a program that you really like them, that's fine.
Mhm.
Don't expect them to give you, detailed information in response.
Mhm.
But if you're going to say that and not mean it, think about that as your first move
Mhm.
ethically into the practice of medicine. If that's going to be dishonest, then that's not good. That doesn't set
Absolutely.
up a good
Absolutely.
going
I
forward. So
cannot
anyway,
agree more.
I know it's a long answer, but that touched an important issue that came up this past year with this whole signaling thing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No, and I agree. I mean, I have kind of witnessed because I mean, new to the leadership role, but I have witnessed is sometimes you have mentees you vouch for. And I mean, sometimes they tell you, okay, I mean, and I always tell them, don't tell me where are you going to rank because it doesn't matter to me. But yeah, sometimes they would tell you, and then once they match somewhere else, you know that they kind of lied.
right,
So yeah, I agree with you that that does not leave a good taste.
right.
Okay. The next question I have is so when you select people for interview, now when how much weightage or importance you give to the interview itself with you, other faculty member, maybe residents, uh, and then how much the scores, the other things would continue onto your rank order finalization process.
Yeah, yeah. I would say the interview is the most important thing. That trumps everything,
Mhm.
including somebody who may not have passed on a first time around on a test, but they come in an interview and we have a sense that they're a good candidate, and we have a whole process by which we sort
Mhm.
that out. That trumps everything, and
Mhm.
so we really like the interview process. I mean, it's important.
Okay.
And that's so important that's why we moved to in person this past year.
Mhm.
And we'll probably, I'm not sure, I haven't met with the team yet, but we'll probably continue some version of that this coming year too.
Okay, I understand.
Yeah.
Uh, my question is somewhat similar to what you have already described. So there's something called a letter of intent, or that usually people send after thank you note or something interviewing. Something is called letter of interest. Like prior to signaling, a lot of people were sending like when they submit the application that I'm interested in your program, this and that. If you would consider me for interview, uh, how do you take that?
It's good. I mean, we get lots of them, and so it's sometimes hard to kind of which ones stand out and which ones don't. And I don't know that I have a sense for that really, but it is helpful. And so we do look at that, and especially if I guess the biggest issue with that is to get a sense that they really know something about our program when they send.
Absolutely,
If
absolutely.
if you can tell, in fact, there are times where I can tell that it's the same letter and they just changed the name, and you can tell because the font is different,
Yes,
and you can just tell they sent that to 400 programs or whatever.
absolutely, absolutely.
But if I get a sense that they really are interested in our program because there's something about the program that they
Mhm,
feel they would be a good fit,
mhm,
and that can run the whole gamut from the social fit to the
mhm,
academic fit to
mhm.
the community fit, however, whatever that fit is, those are the letters that stand out.
Okay.
I'm interested because, and then they actually know more about the program than just the blurb on the website.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, sometimes I think local ties, I have heard that plays a role if someone is living in the surrounding area or someone has relatives or friends living. Some people tell me that that plays a role. What do you think about that? Local
Yeah,
ties.
I would say it does, but I would say almost everybody says that. And they have a cousin in Denver, or they'll have an aunt in New Mexico. What stands out is somebody who knows the program.
Okay.
And they more than just what's on the website. And I don't know how you
Absolutely.
find that out. I guess you network with people and you
Absolutely.
find out. And those people who like, man, wow, they're interested in the program.
Hmm.
The whole issue of kind of the social support and having family around, that's important.
Mhm.
Ultimately, the people who do best here are people who come here because, as a community-based program,
Mhm.
that I think we're unique and strong academically, but we're not
Mhm.
clearly a research institution in the
Mhm.
sense of, bench research and university.
Mhm.
There is a kind of person that fits in here, and we want that person here. We want them to just blossom and
Mhm.
thrive here, and
Absolutely.
that's how we tell.
Okay. Now, people who interview with you, and if after interview they send you like a thank you email, or some people would send handwritten cards, is there any significance of that?
Yeah, I save them, and I
Okay.
put them on into their file. And
Okay.
it's not like, this person sent me a handwritten card,
Mm-hmm.
like that's a huge deal.
Mm-hmm.
But I would say that it does. I mean, it's just a way to be personal, a
Mm-hmm.
way to show an interest. And
Mm-hmm.
like I said, I save them. I don't necessarily, they're not scored in any way, but
Mm-hmm.
it's subjective.
Okay, I understand.
Yeah.
Uh, Now I would wrap it up by asking you very important question. The IMGs, the international medical students, graduates who are listening to this, what would be your recommendation for them to be a competitive enough candidate, and what approach should they opt?
Yeah, I would say to have a good sense of why they want to do internal medicine, and and not look past internal medicine and that 36 months of training as just a hassle to get to a subspecialty.
Mm,
I get it. We totally support our residents who want to do subspecialties, but the one biggest area of concern for us is when somebody's all about that to the
mm,
point where internal medicine isn't even on the radar screen,
mm,
other than just something to tick off the
mm,
checklist.
mm,
So the sense of being called to internal medicine, and if they truly have an interest in primary care hospital medicine, our program is designed to build primary care doctors and hospitalists. And
mm,
we do have a nice track record of people who also go on to do fellowships.
mm,
But if you're going to say, who are we trying to train? Those are the people we're trying to train. And that's who our community likes to actually retain in the community. And so we
mm.
have a number of IMGs who have come and then have liked our program so much that they've decided to set up shop here in town and stay,
Wow.
whether as primary care, whether as hospitalist. Both
Okay.
processes have happened, and our facility, our institution really likes that when that happens. So I know it's a long answer, but a strong call to internal medicine in the personal statement,
Mhm,
an openness to practice primary care and hospital medicine, not as a fallback, but as a real calling.
mhm.
Those stand out. Those things stand out,
Absolutely.
and then we go from there. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, thanks a lot, Dr. Duffy. You took out time on a working day. I really appreciate it, and have a good rest of your day.
Okay, great.